Hey, Cafezola.
Hey
Cafezola.
I told Maria to wait to wash the tablecloths until after you had come in.
Wash the tablecloths.
Okay.
Rinse out the drinking glasses.
All right.
Do whatever it is you have to do. But the only thing I can say is that bless you and thank you for giving me the opportunity to occupy this corner table to practice my bongos every afternoon.
You got it, kid.
And to read you some of the columns.
What columns?
That I wrote for the African Times newspaper.
Oh, yes.
From 1996 to 1999.
Oh, yeah, that was Charles Anyiam?
Charles Anyiam.
Anyiam.
I'm glad you remember that man's name. As I've said earlier, we had an interesting relationship.
Okay, and you wrote the column Media Watch.
For Media Watch, that was my official title.
Okay.
Media Watch.
Okay.
And I watched the media very closely.
I see.
From 96 to 97. I had just come.
You still are watching the
99.
media very closely.
I had just come back from Ghana, West Africa. And that was one of the reasons why I managed to catch the gig, is because I just come back from Africa and I was pretty much up to date on what was going on in West Africa. Charles Anyiam being an Igbo man from Nigeria, thought that was cool. And we hooked up and hit it off.
Fantastic.
Today, I'm reading two columns,
Okay.
as usual. This one is called National Geographic On Trial. And the other one is called A Tribute to Mongo Santamaria.
Yes.
A tribute to Mongo Santamaria.
Okay.
But first, let's start off with National Geographic On Trial. I think most people are familiar with National Geographic magazine. They were the first mainstream magazine to feature semi-nude women, that is to say African women with their breasts out.
Did they go to other continents where the women also had their breasts out?
They sent photographers and
Right.
writers, of course, to the dark continent
Oh.
because they discovered that a lot of very chaste, very puritanical young white men seem to be turned on by reading articles about people who lived in places like Booga land.
Oh, all right.
I mean, I think they invented some of these countries. They invented
I'm sure.
some of the they went to, but I'm just kidding.
Okay. Please.
National Geographic On Trial. There was a time when I'd make it my business to stay up till 1:30 in the morning to watch Lauren Hutton's talk show. Lauren Hutton was a white model with the usual, she had a little gap between her front teeth, her front, so it made her interesting.
An African trait.
Yeah, Lauren Hutton. If you want to Google Lauren, Lauren, Hutton.
Okay.
If you'd like to Google who she was, then it might make this thing even more pertinent. Anyway, I'd stay up till 1:30 in the morning to watch Lauren Hutton's talk show. She always had interesting guests, and there was usually some efforts made to discuss issues of substance. In addition, she's an interesting looking person with this attractive gap between her upper fronts and a slightly Zaftik look in her eyes. You can also look up Zaftik if you like. Zaftig.
Okay.
Zaftik. After watching the National Geographic on Assignment, October 12, 1997, a special edition detailing a trip that Lauren Hutton made to Kenya, I don't care if I never see the woman again, anywhere. In some ways, the Lauren Hutton exposition, featuring her two young sons, was a classic study of cultural contamination at work. It was made quite clear early on that the people Miss Hutton had chosen to pick on, the Maasai, didn't have a clue as to how they were going to be portrayed. Miss Hutton, obviously thinking that she was doing everybody a favor, proceeded to degrade an entire culture, seemingly to give her son something to play with. The boys became warriors by having paint daubed on their innocent, pale faces. This was only one of many instances that gave us stomach-churning fits of anger to see her children treated to the super primitive Messiah experience. As most African Americans have almost become immune to the kind of cultural insensitivity demonstrated by many segments of our mass media, it's almost puke-provoking to see it done to people who haven't the experience to fight off the beast. Was it really necessary for the warrior Moran to play frisbee? What was that about? And was it really necessary for Miss Hutton to apply lipstick to one of the warrior's lips? Oh. Poor brother, he had never faced a lion as mean-spirited as this one application of Ruby Booty. It was character assassination on a grand scale, disguised by the kind of love that doesn't benefit the people being loved to death. Of course, we were treated to a long, intense close-up of a warrior sipping a dewlap of freshly drawn blood. No serious effort is ever made to put anything of importance into a cultural context. The patronizing flavor of the safari would have been blotted out. The Messiah, this is in quotes, the Messiah, these noble, untamed savages. Several members of our household made urgent requests for me to change the channel. Why are you looking at the crazy white woman, man? I couldn't change the channel. My approach avoidance, ambivalence forced me to see it to the bitter end. If I hadn't been strong-minded enough to stick it out, I would have missed a number of disgusting scenes. The Uncle Tom Messiah. I hope everybody is hip to the fact that the Messiah lived in East Africa, Kenya, and crossing another border. They don't recognize borders. They are the Messiah of East Africa. If I hadn't been strong-minded enough to stick it out, I would have missed a number of disgusting scenes. The Uncle Tom Messiah, who had been reduced to playing Ain't Jimmy Mammy with one of Mrs. Hutton's Messiah acclimated sons. Miss Hutton, lovingly photographed, surrounded by a chrysanthemum collection of hard-cased, bloodthirsty warrior babies. Perhaps she was only attempting to say, you see, they're not really as dangerous as they look. Or maybe it was an advertisement for like-minded women. See what money can buy. The Hutton boys were also similarly photographed being nuzzled and adored by the sweetest assortment of little chocolate faces you've ever seen. Perhaps the Hutton boys did a bit of nuzzling and adoring themselves, but it was all out of camera range.
Wow.
The boys ate small chunks of meat that came fresh off the campfire and pronounced it to be better than a hamburger.
Watch out, McDonald's.
Better than a hamburger. They were herded in some poor sister's home and given welcoming calabashes of fermented milk, which they actually liked. Lord have mercy. I would like to think that these two young boys will look at this cultural travesty one day when they are older and hipper and try to burn up all of the footage. But as likely as not, they might consider themselves experts on the Messiah culture because they had some blue paint daubed on their faces and some red mud rubbed on their heads once upon a time. Alternative medicine was giving a booster shot by our introduction to a medicine man, whoever he was, and helps one of the Hutton sons overcome a neurological problem. Never understood why we labeled it alternative medicine without any explanation. And on it plowed through every culturally sensitive bone in my body. Finally, my favorite scene. They are trying to force a Messiah child, about 3 years old, onto one of the Hutton sons' back for a piggyback ride. I don't know why. The Messiah child screams and cries until they leave him alone. I felt frustrated at the conclusion of this monstrosity, not knowing what the child's name is. I'm sure that she will become a leader of his people one day. Was there some irony to the fact that Kenneth Hahn, one of the most sensitive white men America has ever had, died on the same day that this madness was shown? And now on to something. Yes.
What a change.
Question.
Okay. No, that was just quite eye-opening.
From Zola herself.
Yes, quite eye-opening, mind-opening. Yeah. Interesting article.
I like that.
Yeah.
Well, now we're going to try to get off into something with a little more rhythm. I found a strange thing happening to me with these pieces. If I was going along with a rhythm that might be considered, a bit antagonized or agitated or angry, I could remember a piece of advice that one of my Rasta Jamaican friends used to say to me. His name was Kojo Wole Raphael. Kojo Wole Raphael. I met him through a friend of mine named MD, Dr. Watts Prophets. And he used to say, do not become agitated. Don't become worried. If you're becoming worried, you will anger up your blood and wind up with a problem. Yes, man, smoke this ganja.
Oh, before it's time.
I didn't take him up on that too much because I liked espresso more than I liked other mind-altering substances.
Lamb spread or whatever.
A tribute to Mongo Santamaria. The announcement of the event leapt from the entertainment section and booted me up. Armando Parazza, Francisco Aguabella, Mongo Santamaria, Giovanni Hidalgo, Cachao, Justo Almaria, Arturo Sandoval, Bobby Matos, Danilo Lozano, Hilton Ruiz, Oreste Vilato, all on the same stage at different times on the same day, plus others not mentioned.
Wow. How is this?
I'm at you.
Yes.
If Armando Perazza, Francisco Aguabella, and Mongo were going to be there, with Carlos Patato Valdez, Papaito, and Julito Collado be far behind. For the aficionados of Afro-Cuban music, I'm talking about the gods of percussion. Sold out.
Ah.
No, imposible. I call them the divine energies and Bobby Matos. Bobby called Justo and Mario, the artistic director of the event. Justo called me. That's the kind of guy he is. He's a world famous musician. Mm-hmm. I called him and he returned my call, and he said, well, suddenly I had 2 tickets. I called my baby's mama, the lady called Love. I wanted to share this experience with someone who related to spirituality. Love did and does. Briefly about Latin jazz. Oh God, I hate that like I hate, God hates little green apples. Latin jazz. Where in the hell is the Latin? But we'll get to that in another time. Latin jazz is basically Afro-Cuban music, one of the most advanced styles of African music in the world. If you can visualize Africa as a hand with jeweled diaspora fingers splayed in 5 directions, then it will be much easier to see the gems on the Cuban finger. Musically, many special elements have blended, from the Native Americans, from the Spanish, from the Yoruba, from the French, from the jazz as a mainland African American, from supernatural sources. Ashe.
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 Musically, Latin jazz is, of course, a misnomer like Latin America. There are no Latins in America. There are no Latins in America. It never have been. But that just goes to show you what can happen when the usual suspect could get control of the history and the geography books. Ditto for Hispanic. How can a black Cuban, a Mexican Indian, and a multiracial Dominican all be Hispanic? But that's a discussion we can save for El Nino time. Whole Mango, in honor of Mongo Santamaria, one of the pioneers of Afro-Cuban music in the U.S. Sometimes I play Yambu when I'm happy and when I'm sad. Channel Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie must have been smiling down on the stage all day long. First off, the Cal Arts Latin jazz group oiled the stage and cooked. It was smoking when they left, and nothing had been burned. Sabrosa! Herb Alpert can't play the trumpet very well and should have stopped trying to dance, period. White boy couldn't dance. He's opened up the doors for people with his Herb Alpert fund, which is all right and just as it should be. If you make money from being able to appear and do what other people could do much better than you could do, then you should give something back. Okay, I'm going back to where I stopped. Channel Pozo and Dizzy Gillespie must have been smiling down on the stage all day long. First up, the Cal Arts Latin jazz group oiled the stages and cooked. It was smoking when they left and nothing had been burned. Sabroso. Herb Alpert can't play the trumpet very well and should stop trying to dance, period. But he had Justo and Mario with him and a collection of other fine musicians to take up the slack. Andy Garcia, actor. Dude plays bongo pretty good. Andy Garcia was the MC and double on congas with Francisco Aguabella during a star turn with Cachao's Orquesta later in the program. Garcia also picked up the bongo with Arturo Sandoval, an unusual MC, indeed, who chatted very little and played a lot. Paquito de Rivera and the Caribbean Jazz Project were ambushed by a faulty sound system during their set, or Kiss of Death, at the Greek Theater. The peak of the evening was the section labeled Tres Maestros Congueros, 3 master conga players, accompanied by Al McKibben. Al McKibben is a legend in Afro-Cuban music and in jazz because he was a brother who picked up the bass and started playing with cachao rhythms. Accompanied by Al Kibben, the bassist who was with Dizzy Gillespie when Diaz Bob channeled Pozo with Mario Barza's help into jazz. And Pozo gave us Manteca, Huachihuara, Cubap City, Blam 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 Blam, and a new rhythmic pulse. Armando Parazza, Francisco Aguabella, Giovanni Hidalgo, Tres Maestros Congueros. Mongo joined them later to accept his well-deserved award and to play a little. The walls of the Greek Theater were sweating when they finished an espeluznanza set. Espeluznanza. Backstage, an aficionado of Afro-Cuban music all my life, an addiction like Cuban cigars, Cuban coffee, and Cuban women. Well, that's...
Once upon a time.
Pardon. One needs to think from time to time. Armando Perazza, my friend of many years, has also been my spiritual mentor. It began one night at the old lighthouse in Hermosa Beach while playing with Cal Jada, when Armando's left leg shot straight out to the left. And he played the congos until his hand melted like a pool of black butter on the drums. Those of us who were there saw this happening. On October 25th, 1997, backstage after his set, while listening to Cachao and his orquesta, Calfredo Valdez, piano, Francisco Aguabello, congas, assisted by Lucky Luciano Garcia, Orestes Virato, timbales, Humberto Nengue Hernandez, bongos, Justo Almario, saxophone, Ramon Flores, trompeto, the great Danilo Lozano, flute, Nelson Gonzalez, tres, Lesaro Galarrega, vocals, Nelson Marquez, vocals, etc., etc. Armando performed a dance that was so original in its design and execution, so authentically African-Cuban, that it would be impossible to describe. This is happening backstage while we were looking at the group.
Oh, okay.
It lasted almost 2 minutes, and those of us who witnessed it will never forget it. Vertrizo, my baby mama, asked, Did you just see what that old man just did? He danced on one leg. He danced a whole 3 or 4 minute mambo on his, I think it was his right leg, I'm not sure. But he did it with one leg held up behind him. Think about that. Try to do the mambo if you want to on one leg. Did you see what that old man just did? Unfortunately, the recipe for that dish will go when the maestro goes, because no one will ever have those ingredients. My thanks and a warm abrazo to Bobby Matos and Judson Matos for the hookup, and to Justo Almario for offering the African Times their aid and warmth.
And a big shout out to Retrieval, whose birthday is next month.
Oshumbaleo, yeah, yeah, baleo. Oshumbaleo,
Africante baleo.
Oshumbaleo, yeah, yeah, baleo.
Oshumbaleo, Africante baleo. All right. Until tomorrow.
Until tomorrow, same time, same place.
Same time.
Hey.
The website is www.odiehawkins.com. Your books can be purchased on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Archway Publishing, Book Baby, or at your local bookstore. Just go in and say, I want a copy of Odie Hawkins' books. And the radio plays can be purchased at old time radio shows. About 16 of them, I believe, are there. All right. Until tomorrow.
Only in Sola's Cafe.
Ashe.
And only in Cafe Zola am I able to hear these things about me. People keep calling me the Underground Master, and I keep saying, well, I keep asking, if I'm the Underground Master, who is the Overground Master? Oh, I'm sorry.
Mimba.